So thank you very much, everyone, for coming to our Innovative Discovery Series. So we are really delighted today to have Dr. Chimowitz from Medical University of South Carolina talk to us about mentoring. However, before I introduce our speaker, let me go over some housekeeping issues. So for CME credits, we have changed the process, the procedure. You now must text the CME office credit. This is for both online and in-person viewers, and there are handouts by the sign-in sheet over there to have the text number. Make sure you sign in and please RSVP so that you can better prepare for the next session. And the next session we have, that's Delaware Medical Legal Partnership by Susan on August 12th, and then Global Surgery 2030 by John Meara on August 19th. You can see the full schedule on the ACCEL website, and all the previous presentations are available on our website, DE-CTR.org. So again, I'm really delighted to introduce Dr. Chimowitz. Dr. Chimowitz is the Associate Dean for Faculty Development at the Medical University of South Carolina, as well as Professor of Neurology in the Department of Neurosciences, and the Director of the Multidisciplinary Scholars Program in Clinical and Translational Science, again at the Medical University of South Carolina. He obtained his Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics from University of Cape Town in South Africa and his MD from University of Cape Town, and did a residency in neurology at Tufts in New England Medical Center in Boston, and a cerebrovascular fellowship at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in Cleveland, Ohio. Prior to being Associate Dean for Faculty Development, he was Vice Chair of Research in the Department of Neurology, again at Medical University of South Carolina, and co-director of the Stroke Center there. And prior to going to MUSC in 2008, he was professor in the Department of Neurology at Emory University and director of the Stroke Program at Emory. Dr. Chimowitz has had leadership positions in multiple committees at the national and regional positions, and positions in either related to stroke or faculty development or to medical education. He's had multiple awards over the years, has been keynote speaker, did plenary presentations at many national and international conferences, has a very large number of manuscripts, as well as invited review papers, book chapters on stroke-related issues. And finally, he's been extremely well funded, has been PI on numerous R01s, and is currently the PI or co-PI on major awards, such as a KL2 award for the CTSA at Medical at MUSC. And he's also the chair of the NIMDS StrokeNet Prevention Working Group and co-investigator of our Delaware CTR, our Delaware ACCEL CTR. And finally, has a very long experience as a mentor at Emory and at MUSC for both fellows and faculty. So we are really delighted, and thank you again for giving us a talk.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here today. Can you hear me all okay? Yeah, good. So I wanted to chat not about research, but only about mentoring today. And the title of the talk is Faculty Mentoring in Challenging Times. And as I'm going to describe these are some challenging times. Let me just show you the outline of my talk. I'm going to briefly describe what those challenges are and what we've tried to do at MUSC to help respond to those challenges. And then talk a little bit about individual responsibilities of mentees and mentors to deal with these challenging issues. So I wanted to start with a quote actually from a paper by Steve Lowenstein and colleagues at the University of Colorado. And in that paper, they actually quote Dr. Arnold Rice Ridge, chair of pathology at Hopkins in the 1950s. And this is Dr. Rich's words describing the typical activities of faculty at academic or medical centers in that era. and these are the quote is, these faculty enjoyed the element of repose, quiet pursuit of knowledge, friendship of books, the pleasures of conversations, and the advantages of solitude. I think those of you who are not much older than me probably are like me and do not have the great fortune of working in that era. That doesn't sound anything like what academic medical work is like these days. And actually, I read more about Dr. Rich after reading that. It turned out that he was a world authority on TB, and he was entirely funded through his entire career by Hopkins. And he actually abhorred the concept of federal grants because he refused to modify his research to accommodate the opinion of outside reviewers. Again, would be nice to have funding from our own institutions and not have to rely on writing grants at the NIH. So today's climate in academic or medical centers is obviously very different. In order to balance the books, faculty face enormous financial pressures to generate more revenue, either by increasing their own reviews and physical activities, and for researchers to apply for more and more grants in a very, very competitive environment. And issues of teaching, maintaining scholarship are a real challenge, let alone balancing work and life, family life. So the quiet repose that Dr. Rich spoke about is forever gone, I think, in academic and probably other faculty positions too. So these challenging times have actually led to some concerning trends nationwide in the movement of faculty in and out of academics. Many faculty are leaving academics, with some studies showing that up to 40% are considering leaving in the next 5 years. We actually did a survey here at MUSC about 5 years ago before we started the programs I'm going to describe. And these numbers were similar at MUSC. Nationwide, medical school faculty turnover is about 8 to 10% a year, and it's especially high among women, minorities, and clinicians. The cost of this turnover is very high, and replacing new faculty can cost anywhere from, $100,000 to over $1 million, depending on the type of faculty member you're trying to recruit. And then compounding the compounding the loss of existing faculty is that the pipeline of new clinical and translational researchers is diminishing to the point that NIH is very concerned about the future of clinical and translational research in the USA. The net result of these trends is that there is what has been called a war for talent taking place at academic or medical centers to recruit and keep our most talented faculty. And it's imperative that in order to win this war, that academic medical centers make every effort to improve the mentoring and career development of our junior faculty. That's what they're looking to us to do. And it actually is important for us to do that, to recruit the best people and to make sure that they stay so that you don't have this cost of turnover every year. So what have we done at MUSC in recognition of that? Thankfully, the leadership here have been very aware of this and have really supported the programs that we try to develop here. And so before I describe those programs, I did want to show you the results of a survey we did at MUSC before we started these mentoring development plans. We sent this to all regular full-time faculty on campus at MUSC. This is not just the College of Medicine, this is across all colleges. And I'm going to show you some of the results from that survey. When we asked faculty if they had a designated mentor, you can see that the assistant professors and instructors only that 43% did not. You can see the breakdown for gender how long they'd been at MUC and whether they were clinical or basic. But this was a concern for us that 43% of junior faculty did not actually have a mentor, higher amongst males and females. And then when we asked faculty if they were serving as a designated mentor, this was another very concerning number to us, that when you ask full or associate professors whether they were mentoring, more than half, 63.8%, were not actually acting as mentors. So we had a lot of work to do here. And we also asked questions about career development. When we asked faculty if they were familiar with criteria for promotion, 74% of the junior faculty were not, were, but that meant that 26% weren't. And when we asked about satisfaction with progression of the career, only 78% of the junior faculty were satisfied with the department's support of their careers, only 71% of the junior. And when we asked them if they were considering leaving MUC in the next year, fully, 22 were. So we took this as kind of warning signs that we really needed to try to develop stronger mentoring and career development programs. So the overall goal of the strategy was to try to improve the quality of mentoring, career development, and job satisfaction of the junior investigators, develop mentoring programs that will attract and maintain excellent junior investigators, increase the number of funded junior investigators through K's, first R1, and VA awards, and then also train the next generation, the current and next generation of mentors. So how do we do this? And I'm going to describe each of these programs that we developed in more detail. The first thing that we did, though, was to develop a mentor leadership council. I got the permission of the provost and the deans of all of the colleges to develop this leadership council, which consisted of faculty from all the colleges at the institution, and also had representation from basic science, our Women's Scholars Program, and health disparities. And this was done under the umbrella of our CTSA, but we also reported to the provost, the deans, and collaborated with the chairs. And these are some of the policies and projects that we have taken on, and I'm going to describe each of those in more detail. The first I want to describe is a requirement that each department either develop a new mentoring plan or enhance the mentoring plan. And this was required of every department and every college of campus. We feel very strongly at MUSC that CTSA and places and what you're doing with ACCEL through, dedicated mentoring of successful researchers can only be a small part of improving mentoring across campus, because only a few faculty can really benefit from the CTSA or the ACCEL program. What we wanted to do was to try to make sure that mentoring was happening for all faculty, not just the ones that had been accepted into K programs or pilot projects or whatever. So we wanted to make both improve mentoring at an institutional level and then also within our own CTSA. So the first thing we did was we developed a framework for departmental mentoring plans. And this framework, and this was developed by the Mentor Leadership Council, this framework includes information on promotion, resources, how to document career development, how to choose mentee mentor agreements, and then suggestions about mentoring metrics that they should collect. So we developed this written framework and provided that to every department chair and required that they develop a plan based on that mentoring framework. And each department, every college on campus now has developed a plan. And in some colleges, like the College of Medicine, these are all actually available on the Associate Dean website. And this is what it looks like. So you can go onto this website and you can click on any department and read their mentoring plan. We've actually been told that by potential recruits that they've actually gone on to this and have been pleased to see that their department and read their prospective department's mentoring plan. The plan requires that a mentor champion be identified in each department. And so the role of the mentor champion is to really oversee the implementation and progress of the mentoring plan in each department. And the associate deans in the different colleges have quarterly meetings with the mentor champions combined to kind of troubleshoot about problems that they're facing and to come up with some joint solutions that these mentor champions can take back to their departments. And then more specifics of the department mentoring plans is that all the faculty at the assistant and associate level are required, and instructor level are required to have a mentor. And we think it's best if faculty find their own mentors, but if they need help, then the champions in their department can help them do this. And the plan requires both recognition that mentees need not only content mentoring for either their research or their clinical activities or their educational scholarship, but also advice on career development. How do you get promoted? How do you network? Those kinds of things. And we don't require that the mentor has to be in the department. They could be external to the department. So I've described what the Mental Leadership Council has done, first tackling departmental mentoring plans. I want to talk now about the K2R club we started. And this is for largely focused on K scholars that are supported by institutional grants, but the programs that we have developed are also open for prospective K scholars who are writing their own K grants that are not on institutional funds. So we have a number of institutional K awards. We have the Birch Program for Women's Health, the CTSA KL2 program. The Dean of our College of Medicine supports 2 K-12 scholars. There's a NIDER, a K-12 for substance abuse, and then we have a Cancer Center K-12 program. And we have developed combined mentoring programs that these scholars come to, and this consists of a K2R club where these scholars have to present at least twice a year their research and their progress, and all the K scholars and their mentors have to attend. This is also open to any other faculty on campus. And this is where people get advice on their research, their grants, in a joint session. We've developed a grant writing course that they are required to attend, the first year K scholars, and this again is open to anyone on faculty who wants to come to this. We meet once a week for about an 8 to 10 week period, and we use a textbook that has been developed by NIH as the basis, and then spend half the time going over their specific aims and really from a grantsmanship point of view, not so much the science, but how did they write it and what they plan to do. And then we provide, when these scholars are writing their R01s or their K23s, if they're going to transfer to K23, we require them to submit a grant, and then these faculty, the K scholars as well as more senior faculty, participate in mock study sections to review the grants that these K scholars are submitting. And those are the common elements. There are also program-specific mentoring elements. We've also developed something called, so that's what the K2R club does. We've also developed something called SOCRATES. SOCRATES stands for the Society of Clinical Research and Translational Early Scientists. And this is a listserv, an email listserv of faculty that are interested in being part of this program. It's mostly junior faculty on campus doing clinical and translational research, but we have a lot of the mentors and senior faculty as part of this listserv. And we provide research updates, announcements, courses, and lectures, but we also have a meeting that's similar to the K2R club meeting, but happens on the first and third Wednesday each month, where we provide anyone on campus with an opportunity to present their grant proposal, and they get feedback from the folks attending. And we've had a number of successes of people who've either come back and want to revise a grant or are submitting for the first time, that where the advice they've gotten here has actually made a big difference. I have actually personally presented at SOCRATES when I had recently submitted a grant, and I got a lot of good advice. And by the way, a lot of the best advice actually came from some of the case scholars that I presented in front of for my own grant proposal. So that's what SOCRATES is. We also have ARROWS, which stands for the Advancement, Recruitment, and Retention of Women in Science. This is actually an NSF-funded grant that focuses on women's issues in science. And they will also arrange for outside grant reviews. They have retreats and have leadership and professional development meetings. And it's a very popular program on campus for the young junior faculty and senior faculty that are involved in research. And then I want to talk a little bit about the mentor training that we've done. Some of you have actually attended some of our CTSA annual mentorship training program. I know Rob Aikens has been to at least one of them. And these we began in 2010. They started as a full-day symposium, but for people found it very hard to come for a full day, so we've gone to a half day. And each year we focus on something different. I've just listed the last 3 years that we focused on promotion, one in 2014, team science and mentoring in 2015. And this last year, just last month, we had a symposium on negotiation skills for mentors and mentees. And these have been very, very popular and successful events. We also have monthly tools for mentors and mentees presentations, and these are some of the examples of the presentations we've had over the last year. You can see describing how to use NIH Reporter, using Palmetto Profiles, which is a search engineer for collaboration, how to use an individual development plan to enhance career development. And actually, Rob gave a very nice talk last week from your program on the IDP. We've had a position on mentoring tips from one of our, we have an award year every year called the Peggy Shakti Research Mentor Award, and the awardee from last year gave us a nice presentation. So these are the kinds of things that we have on a monthly basis to enhance mentor training on campus. So what impact have these mentoring programs had? We have a little bit of data on this. In the College of Medicine, we've had an annual survey that has monitored the number of professors actively mentoring. And if you remember, this number in the College of Medicine in 2011 was 52%, and it had gone up after institution of these programs to 76% and maintained. It's still not ideal. We would like all professors to be mentoring, but it's a significant improvement on what it was in 2011. And if you look at the number of faculty being mentored concomitantly, it has gone up substantially as well. I mean, one of the concerns we had is, people might be mentoring now more commonly, and people are getting mentored, but are they finding satisfaction in their mentoring? And there's always been good satisfaction, and even with this increased mentoring activity, the satisfaction has been maintained. So there we have some evidence that our programs have actually been helping in the College of Medicine. And then if you look at the outcomes of our KL2 and College of Medicine K12 graduates that are overseen by the CTSA, we've had 20 scholars since inception in 2009. There's been 15 graduates, of which 14, 93%, have obtained extramural funding, and the only other one got a score of 35 on a K20 on their first K23 submission, and this person will ultimately get funded too. So we've had a lot of success with our CTSA KL2 program, and the other programs, the other K programs that I mentioned, the institutional ones, have had similar kinds of success rates. And we're in the midst now of sending a much more detailed survey, essentially the identical survey to the one that I showed you in the beginning, where we asked much more detailed questions about career development. And so we'll have a 5-year outcome of what impact the mentoring program has had institutional-wide on the perception of career development and mentoring on campus. So we feel, though, that even though we've had some success, we feel like we need some other mentoring programs. So we are continuing to develop other programs on campus. And I'm going to describe each of these in more detail: a mentor training course, externships and mentoring opportunities at other institutions, and recently development of an Academy of Medical Educators. Because at a place like MUSC, the vast majority of our faculty are actually on academic educational tracks and not on clinician research or basic science tracks. So this is a group of people, the clinician educators, that we feel need particular attention. They are the majority, and mentoring in this arena, in this track, is actually much more challenging. So we decided that, based on feedback we'd gotten from a lot of the mentor championship departments, that we would develop a mentor training program. We didn't feel that the annual mentor program, training program, and the monthly tools for mentors and mentees was sufficient. So we thought we would develop a program around the 6 major mentoring competencies which are listed here. And we decided to use a mentoring program that the University of Minnesota CTSA developed. So our plan here is to pilot this with about 10 to 20 mid to senior level faculty. And we will do it with 3 in-person sessions. They will get a lot of reading materials, and at the first session we'll tell them what their duties are, explain what the program's about, and then send them out with all these reading materials and some assignments. Then we'll meet several weeks later and go over these competencies and then present some real life case scenarios that we would, around those competencies, that we would then at this in-person meeting troubleshoot and try to solve and role model and deal with that. And then we send them out with some reading materials and assignments for the next 3 competencies. And then at the 3rd session, we would do a similar thing to what we've done at the 2nd session. We're planning eventually to offer this twice a year at different times, because one of the things you have to think about is that busy clinicians and our surgical colleagues have expressed this, that if we offer this during the day, then they can't come. So we're planning to have 1 session during the day for non-clinically oriented people and 1 session in the evenings for more busy clinicians. These are the mentors that would be going through this training program. And by the way, I sent an email to all our chairs in every department asking could they identify faculty that they thought would benefit from the mentor training program, and they all said they've got several faculty. So we're going to be relying on our deans and our chairs to make sure that our faculty volunteer to participate in this course. We know it's a challenge to get people to participate, and we are going to try to motivate and incentivize them by offering them a certificate signed by our provost and president, including this in the promotion packet for APT committee to review. And we'll obviously, as I said, need to rely on the deans, council, and department chairs to get faculty to sign up to do this. We will be assessing the program through a pre and post mentoring competency assessment. That's a tool that's actually been validated, and so we will plan to do this before and after to see whether their competencies they've made strides in that regard. So that's the mentor training program. I want to also talk now about externships. These are externships that we're starting off by offering to our KL2 scholars. The CTSA grant that we submitted a couple of years ago, the resubmission, required that we develop externships with industry and with other CTSA programs. And then we're actually, I got Rob to help with the letter, and we need to develop a collaborative program between Delaware and MUSC to offer externships to our program. So the externships this is who we have right now. Actually, Emory has been added to this, so there's a 7th program. But these are the CTSAs that are participating in this externship opportunities, and these are some of the representative externships that each of these CTSAs are offering in areas that they have specific expertise in. And the idea here is that one of our scholars could visit one of these programs for a period of a week or longer, funded by the sending institution, not the host institution. But there would be an agreement with a mentor at the host institution, usually a scholar that wants to come and learn a particular technique or a particular skill. And the host institution would help them set up accommodation, travel plans, and it would be done by the sending institution, and the funding would be through the sending institution's CTSA. So these are some of the ideas we have about providing externships, and Rob and I are going to be working more on trying to add Delaware to externships group as part of our collaboration. So that's the externships. The College of Medicine has developed an Academy of Medical Educators, and this is kind of just in the beginning of being developed. But the idea there was to try to develop specific programs around mentoring the faculty that are clinician educators around scholarship and teaching methods for these kinds of faculty. So we think this is a very important area. It doesn't really relate to, our CTSA, which is focused on translational research. But as I said before, the majority of our medical faculty at MUSC are in education tracks, and so we feel this is a group that really needs a lot of help on mentoring support, because the paradigms, the role models for successful mentoring in this arena is less developed than it is in the research arena. So mentoring programs can only take you so far, though. You can provide all the support to junior faculty, but in the end, it requires voluntary effort and a commitment on the part of senior faculty to take on their role of citizenship and passion and passionately mentor junior faculty. And I'm just going to describe to you the impact that you can have as a junior faculty, as a senior mentor. I'm not sure why the pictures of. All right, let me go back here. The tree is not showing it right. At the bottom of the tree here, you can't see this person at the bottom, but the person at the bottom is Kerry Randall, who ran our Center for Drug and Alcohol Problems. And Kerry, over a career of 20 or 30 years, actually mentored individually, and they're missing people on this, and I'm not sure why, but the actual interim dean of the College of Medicine, Deborah Dees, and our current CTSA director, Kathleen Brady, and other leaders on campus. These folks are major leaders on campus, all independent R01 investigators, were all mentored by Kerry Randall. So if you think about the legacy that one senior faculty person left on this institution, it can be very, very profound. And so what we're trying to get our senior faculty to do is just understand the importance of volunteering, becoming mentors, and leaving their legacies on campus of the kind of mentors, the mentees that ultimately become leaders and themselves are now great mentors on campus. So it's a very important task that we need to push our faculty, our senior faculty, to do this. It's challenging. They'll say that they've got no time, they've got to keep their own careers going, but we need the leadership to keep on egging them on and getting them to do what is a critically important task. And then turning now to the mentees, one of the challenges that I see as a mentor and also as someone who directs mentoring programs is that many times mentoring relationships aren't successful because the mentees don't really take charge of the relationship. And so we expect our mentees to really drive their mentoring relationships. They cannot sit there thinking that they're empty vessels receiving the mentor's advice and wisdom, but rather they have to be, I would say, more than an active participant, an active leader in shaping the relationship. And so they really need to drive the relationship. If you have to be calling your mentee or emailing your mentee to say, when are we scheduled to meet again? That's a very bad sign. The mentee should be bugging you, setting up appointments to meet you, coming to your office, giving you materials. It needs to be driven by them, and those are the folks that end up being most successful. They have to essentially learn to what's called managing up, and that means taking ownership and direction of the relationship. That makes it a lot easier to be a mentor. If you have to chase your mentee, that gives you a lot more work to do, and it's also a bad sign that the relationship isn't working. Other take-home points for mentees, mentoring is reciprocal. Believe it or not, mentors look to their mentees for learning opportunities too, and expect their mentees to teach them something. So always look for opportunities to your mentor and give, and importantly, give feedback in an honest way. And as a mentee, it's very important that you take time to reflect on your values, skills, weaknesses, and goals, and because these reflections will help you form the foundation for your decision making going forward. And then, as Rob very nicely explained last week, it's very hard to be successful now without having an individual development plan that plans your short-term and long-term goals and says how you're going to accomplish them and figures out a plan for monitoring your mentoring success, your relationship. And it's best to be done with an individual development plan. This can be your compass with respect to how you're going to accomplish what you plan to accomplish in your mentoring plan. So in summary, I want to leave some time for questions. Let me just summarize what I've gone through. These are very challenging times in academic medicine now. The academic institutions are in the midst of a war for talent. Faculty are leaving and are not staying long if they are not supported because they've got opportunities to move elsewhere. So we really have to do everything we can to develop strong mentoring programs to recruit new faculty and make sure that those that are here are developing and are having fun and enjoying their careers. We need our senior faculty to step up to the mentoring plate, and for the junior faculty to really take charge of their careers and their mentoring relationships for the programs that are being developed to be successful. That's my presentation. I wanted to leave some time for any questions that you may have.
Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Mark, are there any particular qualities that you've noticed help to make a better mentor or a better mentee?
Yeah, I have another whole talk on those issues. I mean, I think fundamentally, mentors have to be generous in spirit in terms of to be really successful. They've really got to really want the success of their junior faculty, and they've got to feel passionate about it. Those are the top 5% that it's very hard to be a really good mentor without having that passion in your belly about wanting to make a difference for your junior faculty. I think one of the key functions too is to make sure that it gets to this issue of the mentees managing up. Even though there's some, mentors are very often very strongly willed and opinionated people, one of the key things is to not be too much of a problem solver. Let your mentee do most of the problem solving and you do the guidance. It's sometimes easier just to listen and let them figure it out and guide them, but not to solve every problem for them. I think that's a very important task too. And then the other part is, and we see this a lot, you've got to be willing, because a lot of these folks are participating in research that's similar to what you're doing, and it might actually be initially on research that you're doing. There's got to be some plan and some willingness to kind of step back and let the mentee take on an independent role. And that is sometimes a real challenge for senior faculty to let that happen. They've got to be willing to give up on some aspect of the research that they may have had the idea about initially, but at some point have to step back. I think being a really good listener, really wanting to make a difference, and then being willing to let your mentee kind of fly away at some point and support them doing that are some of the key ingredients. For the mentee, I think the most important predictor of a good outcome besides a successful mentoring relationship, probably even more important than a successful mentoring relationship, is fire in the belly of the mentee. If the mentee is ambivalent about their career path or doing what they want to do, that usually does not end up well for them in terms of their career path. So I think fire in the belly is very important, and then taking charge of the mentoring relationship and not being passive, being willing to communicate, not feeling embarrassed about contacting your mentor. I think those are very, very important traits, but there are a lot more. I want me to expand more about it.
So in fact, as a follow-up of this question, does anyone can become a mentor, or do you have selection criteria for being a mentor?
Well, for our KL2 program, we do. So for our KL scholars, we do. But I think in the context of departmental mentoring, when it's not specifically to KL2, I think anyone who is a senior faculty member, or even in fact junior, we actually encourage mentoring that associate professors should be mentoring assistants and instructors, and assistants should be mentoring instructors and fellows and residents, because we want our junior people to learn how to mentor at an early stage, even whilst they're being mentored. So the bottom line is we think every faculty member should mentor in some capacity. Now, if they don't feel like they have the skills to be a mentor, that's the reason we developed this new mentor training program. That's where they can develop some of the skills if they don't feel that they have it. My view is that for faculty that are full professors, they really know what it takes to be the skills that are needed. They've climbed the ladder. They know what it takes. They understand how to make people successful. Whether they're willing to do it or not is a different story. And if they truly are not interested and they don't really want to do it, that's not a very good situation. But most senior faculty, I think, if you ask them to do it, they have enough skills to be able to do it. So we think everyone has the capacity to do it. And if they need the training, then this course can help them do it. But for our KL2 scholars, part of the requirement there as part of the application process is that they have to describe the mentoring team, and they're actually scored on the mentoring team. So for that scenario, you have to have had some background and success as a mentor to have, for your mentee to have a chance of becoming a successful, a funded scholar in our KL2 program. And that's true of, as you know, for K awards at NIH2, you have to demonstrate that your mentoring team knows what they're doing and has done this successfully before. But for departmental mentoring, I don't think that needs to be a requirement.
And do you evaluate the relationship between mentor and mentee? Do you have regular evaluations?
Yeah, we do. They don't get done consistently, and we have to really push on that. That's challenging. There are papers written about how to do it, because obviously it's tricky, right? It's much easier for a mentor to give an honest opinion of a mentee. Even that can be hard. The more challenging part is whether a mentee will give, even if it's confidential to you, will they give you an honest appraisal? So we do ask for surveys. We don't know how reliable they are. There are some, as I said, some papers, and if you're interested in them, you can let me know by email. I can send you them that talks about, metrics for assessing each other. We do feel that, it's best for mentors and mentees to agree to some kind of agreement. And it can be, if we use like a one-page agreement, this is not for departmental mentors, but for our KL scholars, where we ask them to sign a mentoring agreement where they agree to some fundamental things like confidentiality between them, how often they're going to meet, and what their goals are, and then also agree to a no-fault reassessment of the relationship in a year. And if one or the other doesn't feel like it's working, then ideally they would then not continue and not hold it against each other. That's the hope. Yeah, so it can be tricky, the assessment of how successful you can usually get it by meeting, like on the KL program. We can pretty much tell which relationships are working and which ones aren't, and you can usually tell because they'll come to the program together, where we require them to come to quarterly meetings, and you can tell the mentor doesn't really know exactly what the mentee is doing, and you can tell they're not meeting as often as they should. It's very easy to tell which relationships are successful and which ones aren't. So I think a meeting typically is the best way if you're running a K program or a mentoring program, and requiring your mentors and mentees to come to a joint meeting with you is probably the best way of assessing how successful a relationship is. And then obviously the productivity of the mentee is always a good sign, although if you've really got a mentee with fire in their belly, they can still be successful, as many of you probably were, might not have got mentored when you were young, but if you have fire in your belly and you can get some advice and help, you can still go a long way in your career just on that.
Okay. Any other questions? Great. Thank you so much.
Sure.